Okay, we are live, but if you're watching this video, this is a posted video. And I always say this at the top of the show. Make sure to please like this video or turn on your notifications. Make sure to please subscribe or leave a comment. That will help you to not miss the live shows because these are a lot of fun. They're interactive. But either way, I appreciate you clicking on this video, and God bless you, and thank you so much for being here. So we have quite the show for you guys today. A lot going on. What's up, James? Thank you for joining. I think you're always one of the first people to join these live shows, so thank you. And to all the live viewers, make sure to please like the stream. It helps out a ton. Okay, so we finally have the list of demands. As many of you are aware, Democrats have been wanting reform. Now Republicans are sort of calling this demands. So we have the list. There are 10 demands coming from Democrats. We will be getting into that. We will also be getting into some more statements from Tom Homan in regards to his cooperation with the mayor of Minneapolis, talking about some leadership in Minnesota. We have a response from the mayor of Minneapolis himself. It's also being reported, you guys remember when that whole vehicle was like raided on live stream? And FBI documents were getting leaked on the internet, and you know, that whole thing that happened like a month ago? Yeah, a man was arrested for threatening to leak an FBI's agent and his family after using info stolen from federal vehicles. So people are still getting arrested for that. It's not looking good. We also have more people getting arrested for like vehicle rammings, allegedly, and assaulting Homeland Security officers. Homeland just posted all these new pictures, so we'll get into that. We also have a ton of back and forth. So Chuck Schumer gets called out or questioned about the mask situation. Chuck Schumer says, under unusual circumstances, can you use the mask? We'll get into that. We have a lot to get into. We have a Republican out of New York who's getting called out for a new law he wants to push in New York. But Will Cain says, hold on one second. It looks like you're just trying to legalize every single illegal immigrant in New York. What else? Yeah, we got a ton. We got a ton for you guys. So thank you so much for all being here. And if you guys can do me a massive favor, again, make sure to please like the live stream. We've been doing this every single day, and I want to do it every single day for the whole year, every single morning. I'm going to do my best. And I don't know how many shows we've done so far. I think we're up to like 20 in a row. So we're going for it. We're going for it. Okay, so we're going to read these off. We're not going to go into too much detail yet, but we're just going to read them at face value. And then we will get to like some of the responses where Chuck Schumer talks about this. And Fed Up With It just sent 5 T-SPLY gift memberships. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for being generous. You guys are like the best. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're just going to read this at face value. You guys can leave your opinions, leave your comments, but this is what they want. Dear Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune, we write with respect to the fiscal year 2026 funding for the Department of Homeland Security. For months, the American people have watched in horror as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has terrorized communities across the country. Mind you, to give you more context, all of that information and polling has recently come out. It turns out the majority of Americans support ICE, and the majority of Americans see coming into the country illegally as a crime. That includes Democrats. So keep that in mind. And I'm almost positive I have a clip of Chuck Schumer getting called out for that as well. So keep that in mind in context. After months of escalation against everyday Americans and law-abiding immigrant families, 2 U.S. citizens were killed in the streets of Minneapolis. Federal immigration agents cannot continue to cause chaos in the cities while taxpayer money that should be used to make life more affordable for working families. The American people rightfully expect their elected representatives to take action to rein in ICE and ensure no more lives are lost. It is critical that we come together to impose common sense reforms and accountability measures that the American people are demanding. We believe Congress needs to enact the following guardrails. Here we go. The demands, now they're calling them guardrails. Targeted enforcement. DHS officers cannot enter private property without a judicial. Let me make this better for you. Here we go. Now you guys can see it. Without a judicial warrant. End indiscriminate arrest and improve warrant procedures and standards. Require verification that a person is not a U.S. citizen before holding them in immigration detention. Again, we're not even going to get into... We're just going to read it at face value. Again, I know a lot of you are going to have some opinions on this. No masks. Prohibit ICE and immigration enforcement agents from wearing face coverings. Require ID. Require DHS officers conducting immigration enforcement to display their agency unique ID number and last name. Require them to verbalize their ID number and last name if asked. Protect sensitive locations. Prohibit funds from being used to conduct enforcement near sensitive locations, including medical facilities, schools, childcare facilities, churches, polling places, courts, etc. Not sure what the etc. is, but let's continue. Stop racially profiling. Number 5. Prohibit DHS officers from conducting stops, questioning, and searches based on individuals' presence at certain locations, their job, their spoken language, and accent, or their race and ethnicity. Uphold use of force standards. Place into law a reasonable use of force policy. Expand training and require certification of officers. In the case of an incident, the officer must be removed from the field until an investigation is conducted. Number 7, ensure state and local coordination and oversight. Again, I know, guys, we are just reading this, all right? Preserve the ability of state and local jurisdictions to investigate and prosecute potential crimes and use of excessive force incidents. Require that evidence is preserved and shared with jurisdictions. Require the consent of state and localities to conduct large-scale operations outside of targeted immigration enforcement. Make clear that all buildings where people are detained must abide by the same basic detention standards that require immediate access to a person's attorney to prevent citizens' arrest or detention. Allow states to sue DHS for violations of all requirements. Prohibit limitations on member visits to ICE facilities regardless of how those facilities are funded. Almost done here. Body cameras for accountability, not tracking. Require use of body-worn cameras when interacting with the public, and mandate requirements for the storage and access of footage. Prohibit tracking, creating, or maintaining databases of individuals participating in First Amendment activities. No paramilitary police. Regulate and standardize the type of uniforms and equipment DHS officers carry during enforcement operations to bring them in line with civil enforcement. Okay, these reforms should apply to all federal activity, whether funded by FY26 appropriations, the OBBBA, or any other act. All right, so again, like I said, we were just reading this at face value, and I already see your comments. I know exactly what you guys are thinking. I already know what you guys are saying and thinking. I know. But I just wanted to start off the show and let you guys know that this is happening right now. We finally have that list that I think a lot of us have been waiting for, because there's been a lot of speculation. I mean, the first thing I want to say is nothing about Border Patrol is here. There's a few things in there I thought they'd throw in, but they didn't. So let us continue. And again, make sure you guys are please liking the stream. Helps out a ton so we can continue to make this a great show for everybody.
They're asking for no masks. Okay, guess what? If you're going to do that, and why, we can identify them. Officials can identify them. Their bosses can. The only ones who perhaps can't are the general public, the mob. So they want them to unmask so they can be doxxed and be harassed at their homes. If they're going to do that, then we need to raise the penalties on doxing, jail time for doxing an ICE agent, for instance. And they're talking about, hey, you can't do these roving groups. Okay, then let us pick up the criminals, the illegals that are criminals in jail. Then you won't have to have groups going through the streets looking for them.
Yeah, lawmakers, opposing lawmakers, Republicans are already seeing this as, like, first off, there's contradictions in the statements, in the demands. It doesn't make sense. And then if we're going to just immediately unmask everybody, then what happens if all these people start getting leaked? What do we do from there? So The pushback is already happening. And by the way, this is less than 24 hours old as far as getting these demands, so a lot of people are building their arguments as far as why they don't like this. Now, don't worry, we'll get back to that, but recently Tom Homan did another interview talking about the situation on the ground in Minnesota, talking about communication. And the reason why we're focusing so much right now on Minnesota is because this is really laying out the groundwork for what's to come. Right now, Tom Homan has combined unified forces between Border Patrol and ICE. I made a video about that yesterday that nobody saw because it didn't get pushed out. But basically, the premise in the video was last year, the Trump administration acknowledged there was going to be some sort of shakeup, that eventually we might have Border Patrol chiefs in charge of certain ICE field offices to hopefully get more numbers as far as deportations, according to the Trump administration, change up the culture a little bit. And we're starting to see that now, specifically in Minneapolis. But this is different. Now we're seeing ICE and Border Patrol work together under one chain of command. And so, yeah, rather unique. That's why we're paying attention to Minnesota, laying out the groundwork for what's to come.
The left-wing media, Tom, you would not be surprised. They're also skeptical, but for different reasons. Watch.
The skepticism of Tom Homan's announcement today that anything, frankly, will change in terms of the posture on the ground, to me, is completely understandable because of who Tom Homan is and what his track record is. Tom Homan in a suit and tie has been talking about some of these very same policies from the very beginning of these raids, if not before.
They want open borders, Tom.
And I think that's why Tom Homan is not wearing a suit and tie right now.
And you're not wearing a suit and tie tonight.
You
look like the old days. It's the old days, Tom, tonight.
The bottom line, Laura, those people that question me, bottom line is, both under Trump 1 and Trump 2 and the Obama administration, I have overseen more interior enforcement deportations than any man since the Eisenhower administration. President Trump made a promise of mass deportation. I made a promise of mass deportation, and it's happening, and it's continuing happening for the next 3 years. We're not slowing down.
Yeah.
As President Trump has said,
Again, guys, I know I have to keep telling you this. If you have any friends or family, or maybe yourself, if you think deportations are quote-unquote slowing down, I think it's quite the opposite. I think it'll actually increase by a lot. And not only that, because West Virginia was such a wild card and nobody even knew that was happening, I do expect that we might start to see those types of operations where ICE we just didn't know that they were in West Virginia for 2 weeks, or they were in Maine with some pushback, but hardly any. I think we are seeing a bit of a tactical shift as far as how public the Trump administration wants to make something.
First, but if you're in the country legally, you're not off the table. But as far as Mayor Fry and Governor Walz, now it's time to do your job. I said we're not going to do any further drawdowns if the hate, the rhetoric, and the attacks on ICE, the impediment and interference doesn't cease. This is on you now. So you say you care about public safety. You say you believe ICE has a duty to do. You all say you agree with removing criminals. Now's the time to take some action.
And what do you guys think? Do you guys think they're going to abide by that? And don't worry, we have a Mayor Fry response. And look, here's the thing. The Trump administration did something really big. I mean, we don't know for sure if the Trump administration did this as a negotiation tactic. We have no idea. We can make an assumption. I mean, even President Trump said he wants to be a little softer, or he learned to be a little more softer in these types of situations. They got rid of Chief Bovino. And a lot of people were shocked, surprised, like, why did you get rid of the guy who's like the front runner of these operations? And I think a lot of that had to do, my personal opinion, with like, hey, we're willing to work with you. We got rid of Mr. Chief Bovino. He's going back to his sector. We got rid of 700 federal agents. As Tom Homan is saying, now it's up to you, and we're going to see what happens. And don't worry, we have that response.
Do a public service announcement and tell these agitators to stop what they're doing, stop attacking ICE officers. They're not going to listen to me. I agree. I'm skeptical, too, that these agitators are going to stop. This is where the governor and the mayor can help with this message. make their streets safe again. They say that we're causing economic chaos and disturbance in the neighborhood. No, it's the agitators that put up illegal roadblocks. It's the ones that attack ICE officers. So rather than having 6 officers at a site to arrest a bad guy, now we're going to have 6 more guys to perform a security detail to watch their back. So what would take 2 guys to do in the jail, it now takes 12 guys on the street. Now that we're in the jails, now the jails are helping us, rather than those 12 guys arresting that one guy, we got 2 guys doing it in jail. That releases 10 more guys to do immigration enforcement in the United States.
There you go. And you guys may notice also Tom Homan a little more aggressive in his posture. He gets very passionate about this as far as wanting communication, wanting cooperation. Now, I just want to play this clip for you guys real quick. This, to me, is why I think President Trump sent in Tom Homan to have sort of this equal balance of a softer touch, if you will. Again, I will let the president speak for himself.
Speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them. And then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made.
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest with you. It is starting to look a little bit like the president is not too happy with the post communication. So you guys remember, like, it was good. Apparently these talks were really good, and then that's when Chief Bovino got let go as far as the timeline is concerned. President Trump quite literally posted on social media, the talks were great. Everything was good. We don't agree on everything. Tom Homan came out and said, yep, the talks are going well. Now, something might be happening here. And then this was posted today. So what you're about to see is right now.
Governor and this horrible fake mayor, Fry.
This is within 1 week, mind you.
Governor and this horrible fake mayor, Fry. This is the Constitution of the United States. People don't want to be mugged. They don't want to have a murderer living next door that was, killed 3 people in a certain country and is now living beautifully here. Because generally speaking, if they've killed in another country, they're not going to be the best of citizens. And they're rough people. Remember in the campaign, I used to say that their criminals make our criminals look like babies.
All right, so just to show you guys again, the timeline of events, this is all basically within a week. Chief Bovino left. Good communication. Then we started to see a lot of pushback from protesters. We started to see these roadblocks. Then the governor came out and said we don't have some communication. Again, I get just as confused as others as far as like where they stand, but it doesn't look like it's great. Let me just get straight to the reaction from the mayor himself, actually. And again, if you guys can do me a massive favor, make sure to please like the live stream. It helps out a ton. And these shows are only successful because of you guys, quite literally. Thank you guys so much for everything and your generosity and your amazing words. God bless you guys.
It is worth noting that during the Obama years, the Hennepin County Jail actually had a policy where they let an ICE agent keep an office there and allowed them to talk to immigrants. So
it's a little ironic considering Tom Homan worked under the Obama admin as well, or was doing his job under the Obama admin. It's almost as if Tom Homan knew there was cooperation back then in this specific area he is working. I'm just throwing it out there.
Keep an office there and allowed them to talk to immigrants. So the policy has clearly been, under a Democratic president, what now the Trump administration is asking for. I mean, big picture, do you think it's good policy for the jails to follow an ICE detainer and hand someone over if they've committed a crime? And again, this only happens after they've served their time, for whatever crime they may have committed against the people of Minnesota.
I mean, look, you're asking all the right questions here. And while I don't have full expertise in how the operations at the jail are conducted, again, that's not our jurisdiction. What I would say is that there are mechanisms to do this lawfully.
Okay, so again, you guys can leave your comments down below. I always try to allow for people to say what they want to say as far as their political talking points. And you guys can let me know if you're satisfied with that question. It should be noted that the Hennepin County sheriffs, very early on before this federal surge or before anybody even was paying attention to Minneapolis, they were already getting pushback from protesters. At that facility where you guys see the protesting in the Minneapolis area, that's actually St. Paul, not Minneapolis. Protesters were there protesting the sheriff's department, and we actually saw some protesters arrested early on. So there's always been pushback against that department.
President Trump said in an interview that a softer touch is required. What do you say to President Trump?
He's right that a softer touch has been required. The drawdown of both federal agents as well as the implementation of body cameras is obviously a step in the right direction. That being said, the continued presence of 2,000 federal agents in a city that only has 600 police officers is still not de-escalation. So
I need to point this out. This has been an argument from the mayor, and you guys can let me know if this is a good argument. One of the arguments from the mayor has been this like federal force versus local forces argument, where numerically speaking, there are more federal agents. There's way more federal agents, and because of that, that is escalation. Now, I don't know how accurate that number is, that there's only 2,000 federal agents in Minneapolis. I've heard that number is more around the 3,000 area. But again, the premise of the argument he has always had, there's really two. Number one, there's so many federal agents that, you know, it's smearing our attempt to be police officers and secure our city. The second big argument he tends to make is this economic argument, that due to the federal presence, we've had loss of economy, and this was one of the premises for trying to get a judge to get rid of ICE, that economically speaking, our city, we're losing revenue, and business is losing revenue by 50% because of federal agents. So this thing about having a ton of agents and always comparing it to the 600 police officers, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, because this is almost the same argument you hear every time. And I'm just curious if you're convinced that this is a good argument or not. I don't know.
We have been very clear that Operation Metro Surge needs to end. The restoration of peace, of safety, the rejuvenation of small local businesses throughout our city depends on one main thing, which is for ICE to leave, and so that continues to be our position.
I told you guys, again, that he combines the arguments of there's a lot of federal agents, so it's 2,000 versus 600, instead of combining the agencies or working together, and then typically gets tied into this economic argument. Now let's get to this arrest right here, showing that the federal assets on the ground are doing a lot of work, including FBI. As far as if you're going to leak information, you might get arrested for it, for sure.
Man has been arrested and charged with doxing.
Allegedly, remember.
Man has been arrested and charged with doxing and threatening an FBI agent and his child using information that was stolen from a government vehicle during an anti-ICE protest in Minneapolis. Garrett Tenney, what happened?
Yeah, well, Dana, folks at home will remember these images of protesters breaking into several FBI vehicles a couple of weeks ago in Minneapolis after agents who were trying to investigate the shooting of an illegal immigrant were forced to evacuate the area for their own.
Okay, so just to give you a little more context, I think you guys remember when this happened. This was pretty big news. This is the same night where the agent was attacked with the shovel, allegedly. Remember that? And then he had to use his firearm to defend himself. Those people have been released by the judge, by the way.
Own safety. Inside those cars, protesters found documents that they posted online, including rosters with FBI employees' phone numbers, email addresses, home addresses, and driver's license. According to court records, within a day, 10 to 15 FBI agents and employees started getting threatening phone calls, emails, texts, and even suspicious drive-bys at their home addresses. One agent had around...
And look, that goes to show within 24 hours, within one day, again, according to the government, it goes to show how fast this information can get released and how fast people can take action if they want to, depending on their intentions with the information.
23 different people.
Now, the question is, how did they get that information? Did somebody take it, post a picture of it on a forum? Did they see it from people taking videos? I have no idea.
Contact him with messages like this. I know where your mom lives, bro, and your dad, and your kids, buddy. Get home safe and fast. And then this email. We'll see how tough you are when I firebomb, and then included a specific address tied to the agent in Cincinnati, Ohio. But it didn't stop there. They also tracked down one FBI special agent's child on Facebook and sent them this message. How does it feel to be the child of your dad's info leaked online? And I find it incredibly embarrassing that he's FBI, but so much is available about him and his family. Investigators traced several of those threatening messages to a man named Jose Ramirez, who lives outside Chicago in Schaumburg, Illinois. And according to the criminal complaint, has a criminal history that includes domestic battery, burglary, and mob action. He's now charged with doxing and threatening an FBI agent.
All right, so you guys can leave your comments down below. Whenever Kash Patel gets asked about things like this, we are almost told nothing. He will often say, we're looking into it, but, you know, we might have something here. Tom Homan as well. Every single time Tom Homan gets asked about stuff like this, he just smirks and says, we'll see what happens. And so I do want to point out, now more than ever, the Trump administration, they have really been honing in on those types of events. Even though in 2025 stuff like that was happening, not as much, but a lot. We were covering it on my channel. And by the way, make sure to please subscribe because we cover this stuff all the time. What we're also starting to see a lot more, and I'm sure you guys are noticing this year, Homeland Security is starting to really post more pictures and update people as far as protesting activities, if we're going to call it that, or crossing that line. So this is straight from Homeland Security. Posting the pictures and their alleged crimes. Arrested, assault, ramming. Arrested, obstruction. Arrested, assault, objects thrown. Arrested, ramming. Arrested, physical assault, assault, objects thrown. Ramming. And I've been covering Homeland Security for a very long time now. I do this every single day. And like I said, now more than ever, it is almost every day, or at least every other day, we're seeing more and more pictures just like this, or more police reports as far as this happening, especially obviously coming out of Minnesota. So you guys can let me know what you feel about that. And I think Homeland Security is trying to back up the statistic of like 3,000% vehicle rammings. I think that's the number now. And if you're going to have a number that high, I think Homeland Security wants to provide the evidence that it is happening, allegedly. Again, we don't know if these guys are fully guilty, but the pictures are being posted. And the charges are being dropped. Or not dropped, but given. And don't worry, we will get to those list of demands. I just like to get through the Minnesota, Minneapolis stuff.
Minnesota and these other states, we have massive investigations going into fraud. Yeah. Do you know if we captured 50% of the fraud of this country right now, we would have better than a balanced budget. And you got to mention that Minnesota, $19 billion in fraud that we know about.
Yeah, guys, they're not leaving anytime soon, so we're going to be here for a while. I mean, Tom Homan quite literally said, if you guys missed at the beginning of the show, we're not leaving until the mission's over. And the fastest way we will leave, or can leave, is if you cooperate. Again, sanctuary city policies gets a little confusing there when it comes to the cooperation, since, it's sanctuary city. We don't cooperate with deportations.
Well, going back to whether government...
Just to give you a little context, Nick Shirley, and I apologize, Mr. David Hoach. You guys probably saw the Nick Shirley video. I think that video has been viewed like 1 billion times. This was yesterday.
So going back to whether Governor Walz knew about it, Governor Walz admitted knowing about the fraud early in his first term, which would say 2020. Well, Minnesota Statute 3.971, Subdivision 9, clearly says that if you are made aware of fraud in a state agency, you are obligated to immediately report that fraud to the Office of the Legislative Auditor. immediately. The legislative auditor is then the body that determines which law enforcement agency to bring into the investigation. Governor Walz did not contact the Office of the Legislative Auditor. He said he contacted the FBI about what? That's not what the law says.
Okay, so that was yesterday. Now, this is the benefit of doing live shows. I'm trying to see if I'm allowed to show you guys this. Breaking, the DOJ just hit a suspect with a federal charge for threatening to injure ICE agents in Minneapolis. So, as we're doing this show, it's being announced that somebody who's well known on the internet, or public, I guess. Yeah. Let me pull this up for you guys real quick. I think, oh my gosh, yeah. Again, when we do these live shows, guys, this is what you get. We get the breaking news in the middle of it. I told you guys. I literally said this is what's going to be happening. More arrests. Get ready for this, people. Again, make sure to please like the stream so people, others can see what's going on. I really appreciate all of you. This also goes to show a lot of this takes a little bit of time. Now, you may or may not have seen this person, but he's gone quite viral on the internet. Let me know if you guys have seen him. That literally just happened. Todd Blanche, the Justice Department with ICE, HSI arrested a self-identified anti-ICE Antifa in Minneapolis today. Conspire and threaten to assault and take out officers, leak their information, and you'll find yourself in federal custody facing the full force of justice. Yeah, I can't even play his videos because they are aggressive. They're out there. So that just happened. This in itself could be a video, by the way, a live stream. So again, yeah. That's what you get when we do these live shows. Anything can happen, people. Anything can happen. And that is massive news. Again, this person was circulating on the internet like crazy in the conservative circle as far as like, hey, he's verbatim saying certain things that I think would warrant possibly looking into. And it looks like they were looking into what he had to say. Now, again, I cannot, unless we get the DOJ report of the exact wording, I cannot play the videos because I'm telling you, they, in my opinion, they're out there.
In your view, did the Minnesota state government, either through incompetence or willful ignorance, reckless blindness or otherwise, did it enable the Somali fraud in Minnesota?
Yes.
How did it do that?
Complicity.
Complicity. Complicity with what degree of awareness as to the level of fraud that was being undertaken?
100%.
100%. So this was not a bug, was it? This was a feature.
Okay. Just showing you guys some of that. That was, again, yesterday. We saw the mayor's reactions already. And I just want to point this out as well. The FBI not slowing down. And don't worry, this is not going to be a one-sided show. We're about to go to the other sides of the political spectrum here in a second. Yeah, my phone is blowing up right now that this man has been arrested. Again, if you are not on the internet, God bless you. That's amazing. But I'm just trying to let you guys know, the fact that that man was arrested is a very big deal in the conservative space, again, because of the type of content that was being posted. And people just like, it doesn't get more black and white as far as expectations or possibility for being arrested. So we'll see what happens with that. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the recovery of stolen government property and or the arrest of individuals responsible for the destruction of theft of government property in Minneapolis, Minnesota, including this unknown suspect who has a tattoo on several of her fingers on her right hand. So that's out there. We'll move forward. We'll go forward. All right, now this is the part of the show I'm sure some of you guys have been wanting to see. So we're going to get into Chuck Schumer's latest comments as far as his expectations as far as reform and what he wants with Homeland Security.
Maybe most important, no secret police. These guys go around, these people go around with masks. It makes them more brutal. They're never accountable. No one even knows who they are. There should be no masks except in the most of unusual circumstances. You know, if some guy's picture was put up by a terrorist group or something. But there should be no masks. There should be there should be cameras. Everyone should have cameras, and there should be rules on how they use them. And they have to have regular uniforms, not all the stuff they're wearing.
Okay, so again, I have to stop here to give you a little bit of accuracy in this. Even if you're like a Democrat and you hate ICE, you might want to know this information as well. This idea of wearing a uniform, ICE operates covertly. Now, you can take that however you want, but ICE as an entity typically operates covertly in order to protect everyone, either themselves or even the intended target. But we just so happen to be seeing them a lot more public. But I will reference West Virginia, and I will always now reference West Virginia as far as operating more covert, not being as public. So this idea of having a specific uniform would take that element away and really change what ICE is. I mean, now if ICE can't operate covert, has to wear a singular uniform, I don't know how that's going to work for that department or agency. I could see it work for Border Patrol. Border Patrol tends to be a little more uniform.
We cannot have secret police, and we cannot, Johnson, the speaker, has said he wants to keep the masks. Well, I guarantee you, when you go down to his district in Louisiana, the sheriffs and police are identified, fully identified with their name and their number. Right. That has to happen across America to prevent these rogue forces from terrorizing cities.
No secret police. No
Correct.
secret police. I can't even believe we're saying that in America. It's so un-American.
Okay, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Again, we're about to go down the opposite spectrum here as far as the political talking points, so just letting you know right now. So this is from Bill Maloogian, the Senate Majority Leader. This was his response, actually, to these list of demands. And if you guys are joining late, we already went through the list of demands from Democrats as far as reform, and that was number 10, no paramilitary police. And also, Mr. Schumer was talking about number 9, body cameras for accountability. I think everyone would agree, but then there was a caveat in there, but not for tracking. What else did he say in there? The no face mask thing, that was also thrown in there as far as talking points. So this was the response already. Senate Majority Leader Mr. Thune just threw cold water on the list of 10 ICE demands that Schumer and Jeffries made last night. It's totally unrealistic. Their demands list went from 3 items to 10 items, Thune said. It just shows you they're not serious. There's a bunch of stuff in there that's a non-starter, and they know it. Maybe they had to put it in there to satisfy Move On or some of their left-wing special interest groups. So that is the response as far as the list of demands. Or I guess we can call it list of reform. Representative Luna, one of the forerunners, or the person really pushing the Save America. Is it Save America, right? Hakeem and Schumer want ICE officers to identify themselves, but not voters.
But also, 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against.
Now, just to remind you guys, the question was this, and I actually really wanted to hear his response to this, because I am genuinely curious what you think about this statistic. And even if you don't grant this poll is accurate, this is still a very high skew here. Support for voter ID requirements. And these stats have been circulating like crazy. You guys have probably seen these statistics already, to include support for ICE, to include seeing illegal immigration as a crime. A lot of Democrats saw that as a crime. But anyway, this specific stat right here, Republicans, 95%, Democrats 71%. Favor requiring all voters to show government-issued photo ID to vote. And unfortunately, I don't think we got an answer to this specific number, the 71%. Now, as far as this 71%, as we know now in politics, you're not only a Republican, you're not only a Democrat, you have to qualify what kind of Democrat you are. Are you progressive? Are you moderate? Are you, I don't know. Same kind of goes for Republicans nowadays. But I am curious as far as this 71%, how they would identify their political skew. Are these moderate Democrats? Are these progressive Democrats? I have no idea, but this is the number that's lingering out there.
They know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
Alrighty, so you guys can leave your comments down below how you feel about that. Again, we are looking at all of the pushback there, and the one specific example he used was if you get divorced and you have to change your name, you won't have ID. So that was his I don't know if that's the main talking point, but that is the talking point we are being told to justify not voting for this. I'm not quite sure what the other main line arguments are, but that's one of them. Here's an update from Representative Luna.
One thing that I'm not so happy to report is that the votes do not exist in the Senate among Republican senators to remove the filibuster. But that is why the standing filibuster is so important. And I know you do not have the votes currently to remove the filibuster on your own. But that is why the standing filibuster is so important, and you know that. And so what I will say is that even though Schumer is trying to make it look like everyone that wants voter ID is racist, I'm sure you've seen the polling, Leader Thune, and you see that the national voter ID is actually a wildly bipartisan issue.
Yeah, I really try not to do this. I almost didn't even want to do it. 3 days ago, I think I made my title or thumbnail, "This was a very big win for Trump." And I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't know how else to identify this, that maybe for the first time in a while, all of these stats heavily lean in the favor of the Trump administration's talking points. And it's interesting, it just so happens this week, all of these stats come out. Because the last time we had these types of stats come out was over the summer. And now all of a sudden, all of these stats come out as far as voter ID, what do we think about ICE? Almost every single stat leaned in favor of the Trump administration. There was only one that did not, but it was a bit of a contradiction. The only stat that was not in favor of the Trump administration was how ICE was performing their duties, and that was from a Democrat standpoint. The majority of Democrats did not support how ICE was performing their duties, or they did not support ICE, but then Democrats saw illegal immigration as a crime. So the question is, if you see that as a crime, but you don't support the guys who are supposed to go after the crime, sometimes we get things like that happens. We can maybe call it a contradiction, or maybe we can, I don't know how else to see it, but just letting you guys know, the vast majority of these stats just so happen to lean in favor of the Trump administration talking points.
It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, people want it. And so this is one of the top issues in our country right now. Please restore the people's faith in our election process. It's incredibly important. But I also know that I talked to Speaker Johnson, and we will be passing what we can out of the House on the Save America Act. However, there are vehicles that we can attach this to. We understand that the position that you are in, and that there are many moderate Republican members who might not necessarily believe in this, to include all the Democrats in the Senate that literally just said they want mass amnesty and no voter ID, but it has to happen. And so I look forward to these continued discussions that you will be having. I know that the president is behind this. I know that the Speaker of the House is behind this, and I know many members of the Republican conference here in the House are behind this. So I hope that you take this as me not trying to publicly bully you, but simply being transparent with the American people.
Alrighty, so again, we will be paying attention to that as far as how that's going to all go down. Let us move here. Here's Mr. Castro. Yeah, let's go here.
In a time of viciousness.
Actually, I cannot play that because that has copyrighted music. Sorry about that. Let's go here. And thank you so much for the very generous $5 donation. Voter ID is a truly bipartisan issue. Nobody wants rigged elections. I mean, yeah, when we look at the polling and the stats, again, I don't know how to reconcile that this is not in the favor of wanting voter ID.
Tell me about the piece of legislation that you're bringing to the floor and why you think these marginal changes are not enough to actually affect change.
Alicia, this is not a training problem. The guy that executed, the agent that executed Alex had years under ICE with training. The reality is that the agency under Department of Homeland Security was created to have qualified immunity in the name of protecting us from domestic terrorism. We created this agency. Before 2003,
it should be noted she is on the House Oversight Committee of Homeland Security, just so you guys are aware.
we didn't have ICE. They didn't operate the way they do. What you're seeing CBP agents do in interior cities like Chicago, like Minnesota, they have been doing to immigrants for a very long time.
Now, I am almost positive that Chicago is not considered an interior city. And I'm going to fact check that while we do this.
Except there were no phones or whistles to be able to protect them. This is exactly why we have to stop talking about basic reforms. Or, Christine, I'm talking about body cameras that they're not going to release footage for. Marimar is demanding for footage to show what they did to her. The point is we need to melt.
Yeah, so as we're doing this right now, for the sake of accuracy, I just want to back this up real quick. She did say we're going to do this together.
Operate the way they do. What you're seeing CBP agents do in interior cities like Chicago.
Yeah, and mind you, she's from that area as well. She represents that area. Chicago is considered to be within the 100-mile border enforcement zone, not an interior city. So, yep, just doing that for you guys. And you guys can fact check me on the fact check if you want. And if you haven't already, make sure to please like this live stream. This is what we try to do here. We try to be as fair as possible. We let others speak, and then we look into it, and then you guys can decide whether or not you agree with it. And thank you guys so much for your support. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Like Minnesota, they have been doing to immigrants for a very long time, except there were no phones or whistles to be able to protect them. This is exactly why we have to stop talking about basic reforms. Or, Christine, I'm talking about body cameras that they're not going to release footage for. Marimar is demanding for footage to show what they did to her. The point is we need to melt ICE. We can't talk about a reform of basics. The people are demanding we stop the killing of people, the abduction of children. My bill will prohibit detention, the monitoring you're seeing, and redirect the money that they're using, the billions of dollars, to put back into the communities that have been most impacted. That, to me, is where we need to be. That's where the American people are. And shame on Congress if we continue to talk about some basic little reform here and there, while our own people, our own Marimars, our own Silverios, our own Keith Porters are dying under our watch.
Okay, so it looks like she's more in the camp of not so much reform, but the abolishing of ICE, or as she's saying, melting ICE. And I'm just trying to show you guys, we really have, again, some people are for abolishing, some people are for reform. We'll just have to wait and see what this all meshes into as far as the mainline talking point.
SAVE Act, which is the piece of legislation that the House is referring to today, is probably the beginning, not the end. Because you're right, the SAVE Act in and of itself is a terrible piece of legislation, but probably doesn't give the president the power he wants to come in and take over an election. But I do think the president is going to put the screws to John Thune and his allies in the Senate, because his options to steal the election are going to continue to narrow. And so he is likely to want a piece of legislation that may not be constitutional, but at least tests the question to the Supreme Court of whether are circumstances where he can come in and take over a state election. I don't.
And again, it should be noted, let me cross-reference this for you guys real quick. I don't know what he means exactly by stealing the election or using this to steal the election, but I do know we saw this at the beginning of the show. Let me protect sensitive locations. One of them was actually the medical facilities, schools, childcare facilities, churches, and polling places. Now, I will have to do a better job at researching polling places. Has polling places ever been a sensitive location as far as Homeland Security doctrine? I've done a whole detailed video on this as far as what are sensitive locations. From the Obama era, Biden, Trump 1, Trump 2, sensitive locations have always been a very, very red flag area for Homeland Security to operate. In almost all of the different, rules for Homeland Security, throughout the board, presidencies, be very careful if you're going to operate around a church. Almost don't even do it unless like somebody runs into that area. Now, I don't remember seeing polling places on that list, but I think he might be referring to that as far as rigged elections type speak.
I don't think Trump yet has really put the screws to Senate Republicans on getting rid of the filibuster. He's made references, some vague threats, but he hasn't worked the phones. The one thing that he will work the phones on when it comes to getting rid of the filibuster would be a piece of legislation to give him the power to at least attempt to take over these elections. So I just don't think this story is written yet. I think at some point over the spring or the summer, Trump is likely going to try to get the Senate to give him the arguable power to come in and intervene in these elections.
Okay, so yeah, that's that talking point. You guys can let me know what you feel about that. Rigged elections has been talked about forever now. And Intel's Wild, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate that. Crazy comment coming from you. All right. Moving forward, this is Adelita.
This message is for Christy Nome, who traveled to my district today for a photo op. Nogales is and always has been a beautiful, vibrant border community. It is not a prop for your anti-immigrant agenda. Our community is sick and tired of militarization and fear-mongering.
It should be noted, this is the same member of Congress who was saw in the middle of the protest, who had pepper balls shooting around her. And many people were questioning why there was a member of Congress at this protest. Apparently, she just so happened to be eating lunch there, just to give you guys a reminder of who she is. And it was never really addressed by Homeland. Well, it was addressed. They were not happy with it, but it doesn't look like there was like an investigation or anything.
Your recklessness has cost lives and sown fear. We don't need that energy in Nogales. Go home. And while you're at it, resign.
Okay.
This message.
And just so you guys are aware, I am monitoring Arizona. I do think Arizona is going to be the next spot for some sort of federal operations going down there, or one of the next spots.
It doesn't say, I'll do it.
Well, I think you would have a Democrat who would say, let's do voter ID, but that's not actually what the SAVE Act is. So Jim Clyburn's talked about this, and he said, I'm for voter ID. I'm not for disproportionate voter ID. And what the SAVE Act does is that it requires that you either have your birth certificate or your passport, which is different than accepting a driver's license, for instance. And the reason for that,
I don't know if that's true.
It is true. Read the bill.
Okay, I will.
I'm sorry, that might hurt you.
And then I will, tomorrow we'll have to correct it.
Well, I won't be here,
there's no
so you can give it to Harold.
There's no way this bill requires people to show up with their birth certificates. Then Barack couldn't register.
Okay, so you guys can leave your comments down below, and I got to do more research on this as well, as far as showing up with a birth certificate. But I am curious, if that was the law, would you guys be okay with that? If the new law is a driver's license not valid, we want birth certificate, or we want, what was the other one? Passport. Sorry, let me give you context here. This is going to be Democrat Representative John Larson. Here's what he had to say.
They said, well, just make an appointment. You can come back. I said, no, you're asking me to break the law. You're breaking the law. The Constitution is the law of the land, not a memorandum from Kristi Noem. She's already operating above the law, slandering American citizens, murdering people in Minneapolis. When does it all stop?
I've been saying this over and over. a lot of the talking points are going to be shifting to Kristi Noem, in my opinion. Last week, we had a couple of politicians coming out and saying, we want to impeach Kristi Noem. Now we're getting a lot more targeted talking points about Kristi Noem.
It only stops when the American people rise up. Congress currently is controlled by Republicans. That's not going to last for long. Woo! And everyone's got to stand together to make sure we bring about the change that we know is right.
Alrighty. He is fired up. Tony left the $5 generous donation. Thank you for that. In the 70s, we got in the car and went to the school to vote. Polling are done publicly protected areas. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. That would fall under the numbers in Texas, protected area.
Georgia, Florida.
Sorry about that.
Some of the numbers in Texas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Louisiana, there were 105,245,000 criminal illegal aliens that were taken. No chaos, no deaths, easy. 7 of the 10 safest cities are places that cooperate with ICE. So why not just cooperate from the get-go?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it again, but I guess as we're doing the same topic, I have always said that if ICE shows up and they show you proof that they are trying to pick up someone who has committed a crime in this country, not the crime of crossing the border, but committed a crime here, especially against an American citizen.
So that right there, I have to stop right there. We haven't heard this in a long time, not the crime of crossing the border. The polling that came out 2 days ago, the vast majority of Americans, to include Democrats, will say this is a crime. And Americans, generally speaking, not even generally, overwhelmingly, don't like crime. So I am curious where this talking point is going. I do want to say she did acknowledge that that was a crime. And thank you, Respawn, for the generous $5 donation. That would be the law. That would be the law to prove citizenship. In order for a married female to get enhanced driver's license, they must provide their marriage license. Thank you.
Someone who has committed a crime in this country, not the crime of crossing the border, but committed a crime here, especially against an American citizen, that you should cooperate. And maybe things would have gone differently. But the analysis that I'm hearing of, the wild protesters versus law and order just does not sync with reality. And Tom Homan admitted as much in his first press conference when he called it at 7 o'clock in the morning. And he said, I would not be here if mistakes were not made. We will see what happens in the investigations into the 2 officers shot Alex Preddy and Officer Ross, who shot Renee Good. And they might find that there was bad behavior, that they made mistakes, and that it wasn't the protesters' fault for, hurling her car into him or whatever Alex Preddy was doing. But you have to let that play out. You also have to be clear-eyed about the fact that this is clearly partisan.
Okay, now there's a lot there. To actually quote Tom Homan correctly, he did say, not everything is perfect, not everything can be perfect. And we actually watched that press conference together, which was a pretty monumental thing to say. Again, people were asking, why are you even here? Why is Chief Bovino gone? Where's Kristi Noem? And he said, not everything is perfect. And they did make a lot of changes.
Hardcore radical. She was trying to block ICE operations.
Yes.
You can argue over these things all you want. The fact is, you have to come to Jesus and say, if you hadn't cooperated, we wouldn't even be doing this. There'd be 2 people alive if it wasn't for the fact that you guys wanted them dead.
You wanted the political theater, that they only send ICE into blue cities and blue states to make liberals.
Okay, so her talking point was ICE tends to go more into blue cities and blue states. If you guys are unaware, and you can look this up yourselves, but why would you do that when I can do it for you? Just so you guys are aware, these are the field offices around the United States as far as ICE only going into blue states and blue cities. Now, I understand. I think her point mainly is we're seeing public federal surges into certain cities that might be blue. But this is the map. So the stars represent the field office, and the star in the spaced out area is the field office where it commands. So up here, St. Paul commands this entire area. The New Orleans field office commands this entire area. And the little red dots, those are the individual offices, not the main headquarters, but the individual offices. And so just to be accurate in the reporting, and even if you don't like ICE, just so you are aware, they're everywhere, like quite literally everywhere. So the idea and concept as far as like ICE only bullies certain states or areas, you can refer back to the field office maps publicly available to us. And you can actually see in detail where operations are taking place as well. But if I had to assume, I think she was more so speaking in the public federal operations we're seeing.
But have you seen any data or research that suggests mail-in ballots are haunted to any level by irregularities, that the law needs to be modified?
Chris, that's the key question, and the answer is no. There is no objective research. There is no factual basis at all to believe that mail-in ballots are somehow fraught with fraud or that immigrants illegally here are voting. There is not a scintilla of evidence to justify that kind of comment. And I think it's highly irresponsible for the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.
Now, this is the first time I've actually heard a politician say there's no evidence whatsoever. In fact, I think the actual argument I heard from other Democrats is that there could be fraud or there might be fraud because, as we know, nothing can be perfect. But it's not substantial enough to pass this law. That, to me, is what I thought the argument was, but it looks like we have some talking points here that there's no evidence whatsoever at all. This is the first time I'm actually hearing this. To me, what I was hearing was there could be some, but not enough to make it a big deal or implement new policies.
To imply that there is this kind of fraud because it undermines trust and credibility. It suppresses the vote. It discourages people from participating in our great democracy. And as I say to people all the time, democracy is not a spectator sport. I am hoping, in fact, there will be massive turnout, that people will express their outrage with ICE and CBP, what we've been seeing, the brutality and the violence in the streets of Minneapolis and all around the country, demonstrated yesterday in the forum that we had, by going to the polls this November and saying enough is enough of this kind of talk and anti-democratic, anti-American.
Alrighty. So again, I told you guys we would be looking a lot at that, the opposite sides of the political spectrum for a lot of people. And we try to see what others are saying. Yeah, I want to see this. I've been wanting to see. I've been waiting to watch this with you guys. All right, here we go. Just so you are aware, this is going to be a whistle. And I apologize for that. I did not know that.
That's what the American people are doing right now in the streets of America. That's what they're using to protect themselves. Whistles and their cameras. That's what they're doing against a fascist army. Speaker Johnson says, quote, ICE is doing what ICE is designed to do. That's what he said. How many more of our neighbors have to be executed? How many more of our neighbors have to be killed? I refuse to send another dollar to the Department of Homeland Security. My residents don't want their tax dollars going to execute people in the streets, abduct 5-year-olds, tear gas children.
Now, again, I do want to point out, it does look like a lot of the politicians, they're watching the clips, they're seeing the videos, and they seem to, I guess we can use the word understand what's happening on the ground in their perspective. But I think this might be the first time ever I have seen a politician reference the whistle on the floor. And if you guys are unaware, the whistle was made popular by a man in Chicago, not the actual invention of the whistle, but the use of a whistle was quite literally made popular by one man in Chicago, and it spread like wildfire. At one point, Chicago was able to distribute like 5,000 whistles over a weekend, which is why, if you've ever seen any clip in Operation Midway Blitz, there are whistles constantly.
And separate our families. This is what the Trump administration is doing right now with DHS funding. It's a fascist army, and it's shameful. I grew up in Southwest Detroit, Mr. Speaker, with 20 different beautiful ethnicities. We were the northern border. And what my community and our community kept telling us back then during its creation, literally, is they told us they are violating people's civil rights. We do not feel safe with them in our community. People were jogging around our parks and getting stopped to be asked what their legal status was. They were militarizing Southwest Detroit. They told us back then, stop funding ICE. Kristi Noem has violated the United States Constitution, eroded due process, and again violated federal processes and laws by preventing members of Congress already from conducting oversight in their facilities. Shame on them. This is not an agency, Mr. Speaker, that can be reformed.
Now, just to try to be fair for you guys, just so you are aware, it's not that like you cannot conduct the oversight. The new policy put into place, and I understand why there's pushback. The new policy put into place is you have to give a certain amount of time if you want to come to the field office or the ICE facility. Last I heard, I think it's like you need to give 1 week notice. I think it used to be 3 days notice, but now I think it's 1 week notice. I think.
You can impeach the secretary, and she needs to be impeached. But this is an agency that was created to do what it's doing now. It is built on violence and racism. ICE must be abolished. Kristi Noem must be impeached. These murders should be prosecuted. I'm not looking for people to get fired. I'm looking for them to be truly held accountable for killing our loved ones, for ripping our children from our arms. Not one more penny should go to this agency that terrorizes our communities. With that, I yield back to the chair.
And there you go. Yeah, that was the first time I saw like the first 2 seconds of it, and I really wanted to see it with you guys. And here in a second, we're actually about to get to a Republican that gets called out on the Will Cain show. I think you guys will find that interesting. But let's first watch this clip real fast. This is from Robin Kelly. And this was posted by her, by the way. I was at Kristi Noem's front steps at ICE headquarters yesterday, so she heard us loud and clear. Congress is watching. The American people are watching. We do not like what we see. Noem, it's time for you to go. I'm impeaching you. Yeah, and she was already doing this, I think like 3 weeks ago, wanting to impeach Kristi Noem. I'm almost positive it was like 3 weeks ago. I'm telling you guys, that looks to be the next big talking point here is going from not funding ICE to wanting to impeach Kristi Noem.
Incompetent and she's dangerous. I'm standing outside of ICE headquarters, and I want Kristi Noem to know I'm watching her. Congress is watching her. But most importantly, the American people are watching her, and we do not like what we see.
An abusive agency that goes around our cities and neighborhoods threatening and terrorizing families, hardworking families that all they want to do is bring food to our table, take care of our children and our frail elderly. This agency, ICE, is dismantled. Just like you dismantle anything that doesn't work.
We do not exaggerate when we say we have people who are afraid to go to the hospital because our hospitals have occupying paramilitary forces.
And one thing I do want to point out, we are hearing the wording paramilitary, or we were hearing that a lot. The video you're seeing right here happened before we got the new list of demands from Democrats, and now it's starting to make sense when you put everything together. Oftentimes, you really have to cross-reference what people said like months ago to what's happening today. But that word paramilitary was being used a lot, and now it makes sense because it's in the list of demands. No paramilitary.
When we say it is time for Kristi Noem to go, we mean it now.
How many people have to die before Republicans open their eyes? Or maybe I should pose the question differently. How many districts, Republican red districts, you need to lose in order to open your eyes?
Alrighty. So just wanted to show you guys that. And those are most of the members of Congress and some senators as far as how they feel about everything going on right now. Now, today is going to be pretty big because I think today we're going to be seeing the responses to the list of demands. We already saw some responses, but I'm sure we're going to get some heated back and forth as far as what Chuck Schumer has been saying and wanting. Now, I've been waiting for this for a while. This is from the Will Cain show. We're not going to watch this whole thing, but apparently there's a snippet in here that Will Cain calls out. Here we go. Oh, and real quick, thank you for the very generous $10 donation. Democrats thrive on pushing bills and impeachments and won't even get a floor vote. It's performative, so they can show their voters they're doing stuff. These bills will never see the day of light. And Senator Fetterman actually would agree with you. But Senator Fetterman did say he is in favor of having Kristi Noem fired. And so there are Democrats out there who would agree with you that say, like, this can't happen. It probably won't happen, which is why, in my opinion, I think we're going to see the development of talking points going into the impeaching Kristi Noem.
Republican New York Congressman Mike Lawler, who is co-sponsoring the bill. Congressman, thanks for being with us here today. The Dignity Act. Let me start with a very pointed question. How is this not amnesty?
Look, when you look at the challenge facing the country, Will, we have upwards of 25 million people who are here undocumented. The president won in large measure on 2 points. Number one, he would secure the border and stop the influx. He has effectively done that. We've had 9 straight months of net zero illegal border crossings coming into the country, and the American people support that. Every Republican supports that. Secondarily, going after criminal aliens and ending sanctuary cities. I just yesterday led the effort to push back against my own home county in New York, trying to become a sanctuary county. One of my Democratic opponents, Beth Davidson, trying to make the county a sanctuary.
And real quick, technically, as of right now, New York is like not fully sanctuary. I know a lot of people, we look at New York as a super liberal Democrat state. Not quite true. Yes, it obviously leans more Democratic, but there is a stronghold in something known as upstate New York, where you have very strong red counties. So I just want to throw it out there. New York is a bit of a confusing mess when it comes to sanctuary or not. It leans sanctuary, but not fully sanctuary like you see in a California, Oregon, or Washington.
For criminal illegal aliens. We are opposed to that. And I think what is a big part of the bill is that it codifies the border security element here. The second aspect of this is to recognize that you have 25 million, roughly, undocumented immigrants in this country. Not everyone has committed a crime while being in the United States. We all agree coming into the country illegally is wrong, and you should not be rewarded for it. But what the Dignity Act is saying is recognizing this challenge, recognizing the number of people who are in this country and the economic impacts on the country. We want to create a legal pathway for those who have been here long term, meaning more than 5 years, more than the Biden administration disaster that was.
Okay, so right off the bat, I am curious what you guys think about this, and it looks like my chat may have crashed. We went from like 4,000 viewers down to 2,000, so let me know if you guys can hear me and see me okay. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, it bumped back up. Great to see you guys. Let me know what you think about this. The idea, again, behind it is if you've been in the country for a long time, you may have come here illegally, you didn't really do anything wrong, but you've been here for a long time, over 5 years, you have a pathway now. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Thank you for the generous $5 donation from Water, TRL9. Hoping the abolish ICE/abolish DHS crowd gets more momentum so it backfires on the Dems in the midterms. It might. You never know. It could. And now we're back up to 4,000. All right, great to see you guys. Here we go.
Was created by allowing open borders.
Let me ask you a simple question, okay? First of all, on the point of codifying border enforcement, I've had this debate with your colleague, Congresswoman Maria Salazar. I do believe that's a bit of a Trojan horse. We do know that border enforcement is at the discretion of executive enforcement. We were all taught a very tough lesson about that under the presidency of Joe Biden. What this is really about is this, however you want to call it, legal status. I asked you, is it amnesty? But I'm going to move the conversation forward. Why? Why is it important to give those 25 million illegal immigrants a pathway to legal status?
And just so you guys are aware, do you remember when President Trump was like, giving a little more leeway to the farm workers. I think it was in California or definitely on the West Coast where President Trump notioned that we might ease up on the farmers or the farm workers, and Republicans were like outraged. They're like, no. Or a lot of conservatives and Republicans, and you never heard about that talking point again.
Again, you're not giving the 25 million. You're giving a segment of that would fit into very specific criteria. Number one, they cannot have committed a crime in the United States or in their country of origin. Number two, they cannot collect government benefits, period. Number three, they have to pay all back taxes and a fine for coming into this country illegally and go through this process. Well,
what if they don't do any of that?
Then they're deported.
What if they don't do it?
And again, I just want to remind everyone, he's a Republican, so I thought you'd find this rather interesting, having a Republican sort of almost lean into the possibility of allowing, or I don't even know what the word would be. Will Cain is calling it a Trojan horse, where it's like a sleight of hand to allow for everyone to become an American citizen. So again, just a reminder, he is a Republican, and thank you for the generous $5 donation. Long Island, New York, is not sanctuary, although the Hamptons is dark blue. Yes, a lot of New York is conservative.
Then they are deported.
They're deported.
You have to abide by the terms of this. And part of this, and I fundamentally believe, if you gave people an option to come out of the shadows, to stop hiding and skirting a legal process, if you gave them a process forward that forgoes any path to citizenship, they would take it.
But
they would take.
I actually would agree with him. I mean, we did see the numbers as far as not the second, but once the Trump administration announced you can be paid to leave the country, once there is some sort of incentive, statistically speaking, it is true. Something does happen. I forget what the number is. I think it's like almost 2 million people self-deported, took that money, and they have the ability to possibly come back. But this is not that.
Why? They came into this country illegally. Why are you offering this path to legal status? What is the benefit to the United States of America?
Because to your point that you just said, a lot of this is based on executive enforcement. And we saw under Joe Biden, I'm answering your question. We saw under Joe Biden a total lack of enforcement at our borders. They violated the asylum and parole process. They pretty much let everybody walk in.
Congressman, with all due respect, you're not answering the point of the question I'm asking about the legal status. I hear you on border enforcement. We all agree on border enforcement. We disagree, you and I, and I'm trying to do so respectfully and get a direct answer from you here on why. Why are you opposed to the deportation of people that came into this country illegally? Why do you feel like there must be a pathway to legal status for the people who are in this country illegally?
And again, he is saying, I don't support the open borders, but then at the same time says we want pathway, but not fully saying everyone should be deported. So if you're a little confused by the talking points, I'm also a little confused, but I'm just trying to show you guys this is out there. Thank you, Yankees 2026, for the very generous $5 donation. Good show. I appreciate it. People who leave voluntarily are looked at near the top when we need workers. New York Republicans are farther left than Texas Democrats. Thank you for that generous donation.
You have a segment of the population of people who came into this country illegally. Right, wrong, and different. People whose children and grandchildren are American citizens, who have been in this country for 10, 15, 20 years, who are participating in the workforce, who are contributing to the tax base, who are part of the community. You can dismiss it, but it's a reality of the situation. And you're not rounding up 25 million people and kicking them all out. That's just a reality of the situation.
I believe
so
and think you and I should have a longer debate on this. And unfortunately, I'm already being told. Everybody always loves to grab this like I'm running for the debate, but I'm already being told because Lee Bryce is waiting in the wings to come talk.
I'm happy
and the
to
show
come
will
back
end.
anytime.
No, but here's the thing. Here, I am respectfully disagreeing with you on this front. You are creating an incentive. That's my belief, Congressman. If you get the Dignity Act passed, you are creating an incentive for rolling whatever word you want to use, amnesty, pathway to citizenship. I know you're not proposing that. Legal status. You're creating the continued incentive for illegal immigration. That's the problem here.
All right, so I do hope he comes back. I would love to see what happens there or if that gains any momentum. But let me know what you guys think about that. One thing I will say is I think it's ignorant to ignore the talking point he made as far as there are a group of people out there where their parents came here illegally and the kid is legal and they've been here for a while. In fact, Tom Homan has even said, like, this is not an issue, but we rely too much on this idea of collateral. You guys have probably heard about this, the collateral, where they find an illegal immigrant and then there's more illegal immigrants there. This almost goes into that, where there are unique situations that Tom Homan is trying to figure out or point out. For DHS, it's complex. So apparently that's a solution to that idea, but I don't know. I don't know how much that's going to move forward or how much support that'll get. This was last night. Scott Jennings was back on CNN. And I'm very curious what you guys are going to think about this.
What Scott Besson is saying is objectively true. We do have a housing shortage in this country. So we already have too few domiciles for the people who are here. His point was simply that if you put 10 or 20 million new people into the pool, whether they're illegal or not, that is going to increase competition for the already short supply of housing.
But the cities we had the sharpest increase in housing, places like Los Angeles, did not have net new immigrant migration in those 3 years. There's no correlation between those things.
There has been a study that actually looked at what happened as a...
And just so you guys know, the argument here or the debate topic, Trump admin blames economic trouble on Biden's migrant surge. That is the topic here.
Result of the increase in immigration during the Biden years, and that study found that that actually housing costs went down in that period of time. After immigration ramped up in 2022, growth rates of housing prices and rents slowed substantially. By 2023, as the surge in immigration continued, home prices fell even further while rent growth completely stalled.
So prices going down is different than rate of increase going down. I mean, it was a massive increase in housing costs.
Hold on, are you...
Yeah, and I mean... The housing prices right now, I think everybody would agree, whether Democrat or Republican, is quite high. But in 2022 and 2023, they were quite high as well. So I'm not sure exactly what that talking point is, but let's continue.
Saying that housing got more expensive or it got less expensive?
During the Biden years.
And this reminds me of the mayor of... It's either the governor of Maryland or the mayor of Baltimore. You guys have heard this talking point before where they will be like, our crime is down 50%, but then the crime is still among the highest in the United States. So whenever we hear talking points, you got to really make sure we're identifying specifics and looking into the details. So yes, I'm not denying that the housing prices could have quote unquote gone down, but if a house goes from $500,000 to $490,000, are we going to grant that as a proper argument? I'm just saying. It reminds me of that.
Housing got dramatically more expensive.
That study that actually looked at the real numbers said that even while there was massive, to your point, immigration into this country, maybe legal and illegal, housing prices, rent went down, housing prices went down.
No, that's not what it says, Abby. You said the rate went down. That's different than saying the price went down. But during the Biden years, when we had a spike in But look, let me just broaden the point.
Scott,
because
I don't understand.
The point is
the rate
just
of
supply
housing
and demand.
increases going down still doesn't prove your point. If you're claiming that immigration is driving a faster growth in prices, it doesn't help your point that the rate slowed down.
I will tell you what my point is. My point is this: if you already have a shortage of something, and you add 20 million people who are trying to get that something,
I guess what
necessarily
I'm asking for,
you're going to have a problem.
I guess what I'm asking for is actual proof of that being.
There's no correlation between the increases.
Principles?
But I think
if you
have
this is
more people trying to buy fewer commodities.
Listen, I'm asking you, is there...
I'm going to be honest with you. This is a little bit of a weird segment here. For anybody who's trying to defend that houses are not expensive, which I don't think Abby is doing, I think she's just saying the mark went down. That's very hard to defend and get favorability on that talking point or people to agree with you. But just wanted to show you guys that was one of the segments last night on CNN. Kristi Noem was over in Arizona yesterday, and we actually saw that member of Congress who called out Kristi Noem, called it a photo op. Here's what she had to say real quick.
Hi, everybody. We're here in Nogales, and we just left a ceremony where we recognized some outstanding Border Patrol agents, but also talked about the fact that we've had 1 year of a secure border under President Trump. Having a secure border means that our laws are enforced, that we have cut fentanyl deaths in our country by over 30%, that we have the lowest murder rate in our nation's history, and that America is safe again. We're continuing to thank President Trump for his strength and leadership in making sure that our border is secure and for giving us a wall that can continue to do that for generations to come.
Alrighty, so that was Kristi Noem. And again, just so you guys are aware, as of right now, President Trump has been pretty happy with Kristi Noem. Yeah. Oh, nah, we won't do that. I don't know if you guys know the former ShamWow guy, or I guess he is known as the real ShamWow guy. Did he invent that product, or is he just a spokesperson? I don't know if you guys know. You know he's like running for Congress.
I'm running for Congress against this guy. Stop having a politician that's worse than Biden. That's discretionary funding. Instead, vote for me, a guy who's not half dead. I'm going to soak up the swamp, clean the house, and pick up those liberal tears that the...
Yeah, this is real, by the way. This is not fake. Just yeah. Maybe we'll do a whole... Maybe he'll come on the live stream. What do you guys think about that? You want me to contact the ShamWow guy and be like, hey, we want to do a morning show? So that's real, by the way. That's like literally not fake. Yeah, he's running for Congress. So. All right, so that's a great way to end this live stream. Just throwing that out there. And he's running on a Republican ticket, just so you guys are aware. I'm going to do some more research as far as the list of demands and some of the responses to this. Again, these are the demands, but still we have conflicting talking points. This is people wanting reform, but then you have some other politicians saying we just want to abolish ICE. I will be looking into that. I will be looking into, is there any compromise from Republicans? Are they willing to somewhat work with any of this? It doesn't really look like it as of right now. I will be looking into some more detailed reports on the arrests happening right now. If you guys are unaware, in the middle of this show, a huge arrest was announced of a man who was threatening to attack Homeland Security agents. So, yeah. Alrighty, this is pretty much all of the relevant information I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, and I really appreciate all of you for being here. Thank you guys so much for helping the show be a success, and thank you guys for being a part of this community that we have created. We always advocate for peace. We always advocate to hear both sides, and then I let you guys decide how you feel about it. So thank you guys so much again for everything. God bless you. And please pray for peace. We need that right now. And please seek Christ. Thank you guys so much for everything. Like, I do have my biases. You know, I am a Christian, so I got to say that. So I love all you guys. Thank you guys so much again. And even if you don't agree with anything, I appreciate you guys for being here and listening. So thank you guys. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Thank you.